What's going on? This is your man John Fortune, your host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show, and today we saw the final game of the Wildcard playoffs, and we've seen the most blowouts this year when it comes to the playoffs. It's almost like a lot of these teams didn't know that it was the playoffs, and it's so crazy because I mean, if this was going to be the playoffs, or if this was going to be the outcome of the teams that's in the playoffs, they could have just let the college football committee pick the teams that were going to the playoffs. Because, I mean, I think Cincinnati would have been a better choice for the playoffs. You know, I mean, when you sit here and, hell, Atlanta would have been a better choice for the playoffs. When you sit here and you examine everything that's going on, this was actually one of the worst wild card rounds in the playoffs that we've seen in a long time. The Minnesota Vikings fall to the LA Rams 27-9. Got not only were they blown out early, they were blown out badly. And there were times where the Rams could have probably scored more, but they didn't, and their defense got into the scoring game. And like I said, this has been some of the worst wild card round games we have seen in the NFL playoffs. I can't even remember the time where we've seen this many blowouts. I mean, you talking about the Rams was a blowout. In all honesty, there were only two real competitive games, and to be quite honest, it was only one real competitive game, and that was the Commanders and the Bucks. I mean, the next competitive game, or close to competitive, is the Eagles and the Packers, but that was about it. You know, I mean, I understand that some people might say the Ravens and the Steelers, but that game, the final outcome of that game, the final score of that game was not indicative of what happened in that game at all. This has been some of the worst performances we've seen. We've seen the Chargers get decimated. We've seen the Broncos get decimated. We saw the Vikings get decimated. I mean, it almost seemed like no team was actually ready to play. Like, no team seemed like they were actually ready to play. And to be quite honest, for all you Minnesota fans, I don't know how you guys aren't as frustrated as Commander fans have been for all these years. I mean, you're talking about Minnesota for years. Ever since I've been looking at football, for years have been perennial playoff teams. And every single year, you're exited out of the playoffs. You never make it further than what people think you're going to make it. And we're talking about, over the years, Minnesota's had the most elite of elite when it comes to players at specialty positions. I mean, when you think about the running back history of Minnesota, when you talk about Terry Allen, Leroy Horde, Robert Smith, Adrian Peterson, Dalvin Cook, and now Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones. I mean, you guys have had the elite of elite. Wide receiver, Chris Carter, Jake Reed. Y'all had Hatchet for a while. Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs. Now you got Justin Jefferson, Randy Moss, Jordan Addison. You guys have had everything, even at quarterback. Fran Tarkenton, Randall Cunningham, Warren Moon, Dante Culpepper, Kirk Cousins to some extent. I mean, you guys have always had it all, even defensively. You guys have had some of the best defenses around. And yet still, it doesn't matter who the coach is. It doesn't matter the different players that come through. For some odd reason, Minnesota can never get over the hump. They're always fantastic regular season teams, but when it comes to the playoffs, they are just trash. And we're talking about a team that is on countless occasions gone into the playoffs with either the best regular season record or either the second or third best record in the entire conference, and have found a constant way to lose over and over and over again. At some point, you got to figure out what it is that constantly holds this team back. Especially when you're talking about a team that has had the best guys at positions that it's hard for teams to find. I mean, Minnesota has had the number one elite guys of their eras each and every time. When you think about Chris Carter, you think about Randy Moss, you think about Justin Jefferson, you think about Stephon Diggs. These guys were the elite of the elite. And then you go as far as even your running backs. Terry Allen, Leroy Horde, Robert Smith, Adrian Peterson, Dalvin Cook. You guys have had these guys. Quarterbacks, the same thing. Fran Tarkenton, Warren Moon, Randall Cunningham, Dante Culpepper. I mean, you guys have had these elite guys in all positions, and you never get over the hump. Never. The fact that there's Minnesota fans that are never as frustrated as Washington fans are is insane to me. Absolutely insane. I've never seen, like, for years, Washington went on a streak where we was wasting talent. But I've never seen a team like Minnesota waste talent to the extent that it has for so long. And we're talking about this extends back to the 70s with the Purple People Eaters. And you're talking about you wasted all that talent back then all the way up to the current time now where talent is just constantly being wasted. How in the hell does any fan of Minnesota not be angered every single time? Like I said, they make understand that they tried to fight for the number one seed. They almost snagged the number one seed and got beaten badly by Detroit. Then you come into the playoffs and get badly murdered by the Rams. That was sad. That was a sad display. And the first thing all the fans in Minnesota like to do, they like to blame the coaching. But it doesn't matter who the coach is, what the coaching is, and everything like that. It is always a situation where this team never gets over the hump. They never make it to the Super Bowl. They never win the big one. I mean, they're basically, Minnesota is almost like the Buffalo Bills of the North. Like, it's the NFC's version of the Buffalo Bills. They get there, they do what they're supposed to do, and they never get over the hump at all, ever. I just don't get it. I don't get why there aren't more angry Minnesota fans and things of that such nature. It is sad. It is so sad. But even with that being said, congratulations to the LA Rams. I mean, to sit up there and come in and basically let Minnesota know, look, I don't know what type of game you thought we were going to come in and play, but we came to play. They sitting up there with wildfires going on up in LA and California and all that, with people's houses being burned and people are missing and stuff like that. Yet and still, they came down to play. like they were trying to inspire their fan base while they're going through the tragedies that they're going through. And you telling me that as Minnesota, y'all couldn't even put a game up for them? The Rams sat up there and dominated. Absolutely dominated from the onset all the way to the end of the game. Not only was their offense scoring, their defense got into scoring. Jared Verse and Byron Young, Byron Young looked great. These are some devastating edge guys. And to be quite honest, I think Philadelphia might be a team that might be booted next. Because at the end of the day, if you sit up there and you watch this Rams team, they look like they're on a mission. I mean, they and understand, they got injuries too. They're one of their starting safeties went out, and I think, to be honest, I think Cam Curl has been out pretty much a majority of this season as well. And somehow, some way, the Rams seem to pull it out, where Minnesota, with their full complement of players, somehow doesn't get it done at all. Like I said, I'm absolutely blown away that there's not more Minnesota fans that aren't as angry as some of us Washington fans were when we were going through the Dan Snyder years. I mean, because, like I said, you guys have been experiencing this since the 70s. The 70s. Find ways to lose when you need the game the most. Constantly in the playoffs, year after year after year, century after century, decade after decade, and somehow, I ain't gonna say century, decade after decade, and still not make it to the big game. At some point, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just Minnesota or if it's the teams or whatever, but it's not the coaches. It's 100% not the coaches. And like I said, y'all have had the elite of elite at every position possible, and you never win. You never win. You never come through. It never seems like a peaceful win. It never seems like what you thought was dominant early on. Next thing you know, you find out it's not as dominant. Here's the second quarterback that you guys have had from Kirk Cousins, from Kirk Cousins to Sam Darnold, who's fooled you guys into thinking that they were gonna make this long run for you guys, and here you are again. In a position where you go out early or you go out too soon and you aren't the team that people thought you were in the regular season because you never can make it far enough in the postseason. I mean, the Rams look great. Puka Nacua just catches everything. Puka Nacua catches everything. Cooper Kupp went out there and he was playing. I mean, it's almost like they just go out there and feast. I mean, Kyron Williams sat up there and fumbled the ball, and still they found a way to win. I mean, Puka Nacua was right there to get the fumble. I mean, Matt Stafford was out there throwing like he trying to march the Rams into the Super Bowl again. And come from out of nowhere and win it again. The Rams look very formidable. And I'm going to be honest, if the Eagles don't play it well or play it right, they will get beat. The Eagles didn't look that great against the Packers. They really didn't. And I don't think you can do the same thing against this Rams team that seems to be on the same page defensively and offensively. Like, you can tell that the defense and the offense plays off of each other. sad to have seen so many blowouts in the playoffs this season. Some of the worst games we've seen in these playoffs. That Denver game was terrible. That Chargers game was terrible. The Minnesota game was terrible. The Pittsburgh Steelers game was terrible. I mean, like I said, again, the only real competitive game that we saw this playoffs was Tampa Bay and Washington. And even then, it's now to the point where you probably should have found a way to put Tampa Bay a little bit higher so they could go against Minnesota or Detroit or something, and put Washington a little bit higher so they can face some of these more competitive games. I tell you, man, I if it was me and I was a Vikings fan, oh, I would be the worst fan in the world. The worst fan in the world. Because at some point the bleeding has got to stop. But guess what? It doesn't stop this year. The Vikings go down 27-9 in a wild card game, and their season is done. Now the question marks is Sam Darnold. Like, I never felt that Sam Darnold was a quality quarterback, but guess what? People think that he's going to lose money. He's not. He's not going to lose money. Because you know what? There's going to be a ton of teams that's going to be willing to throw him as much money as possible. Don't be surprised if you see the Raiders try to throw him money. Or the Giants. Or it could be anybody, to be honest. I mean, Raiders, Giants, Jets. He could possibly go back to the Jets. You know, the Browns. Don't sit up there and be so surprised. But the Browns could be in play. Hell, the Titans could be in play for all we know. Yeah, they got the number 1 overall pick, but I could see them doing something silly like going with Sam Darnold and trading away the number 1 pick. Hell, I mean, there's so many things that I don't know. Minnesota, y'all got stuff to work on. Y'all got a whole season to work on, all season to work on it. But, I mean, I don't understand why you guys can never get over the hump. You're always a team of destiny, and somehow your destiny ends in the playoffs. You never go far enough. Minnesota fans, tell me what y'all think. How do y'all feel about your long history of losing when it comes to the playoffs, and what y'all can do to sit up there and get over the hump? What about y'all Rams fans? How do y'all feel knowing that your team showed up big and showed up for the city and the state, and when they're going through such tragedies right now? How are you feeling about the fact that the Rams were able to kind of slowly take y'all minds away slightly off of the tragedies to get y'all into being excited about winning football? Y'all tell me what y'all think. Other than that, this has been your man John Fortune. Like, comment, and subscribe. And this has been the Frustrated Fan Sports Show.